Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor. Really pleased to have with me once again Dr. Quinton Hennigh. Dr. Hennigh is going to talk today about Eskay Mining. It's a sponsor to this show, and a company that I think is likely on its way to discovering one or more precious metals-rich VMS deposits in the Eskay Consolidated property. That's the Eskay Consolidated property, which is a huge property south of the famous Eskay Creek mine. It was one of Canada's richest mines in history, and it looks like similar sort of geology, similar sort of mineralogy that's evolving there. It's a very exciting thing, so I'm really excited to have Quinton with me today, especially since yesterday the company came out with some really good intercepts, drill intercepts, such as 47 meters grading 5.2 grams per ton gold equivalent, and that was within 140 meters grading 2.6 grams per ton gold equivalent. And another headline was 44 meters grading 4.7 grams per ton gold equivalent and 92.3 meters grading 2.7 grams of gold equivalent per ton. These are really great numbers. Stock is trading up again today, up some 15% on top of yesterday, which responded very nicely to that news on Monday. I saw it selling at $2.20 in U.S. money. That gives it a market cap somewhere north of $260 million or so. So it's not a baby stock anymore compared to many of them that are sponsors and that I cover in my newsletter, but it's certainly one that is starting to gain some attention from professional investors. So thank you so much for joining me again, Quinton.
Always a pleasure, Jay.
It's really good to have you with us. And the November drill results that I just mentioned were from the TV target. Now, the TV target is just a little south of the Jeff target, but I think TV is one that you worked on a lot last year. What can you tell us? What do you know now based on the latest drill intercepts that I just mentioned and others as well?
Yeah, look, it's a pleasure to see long intervals like this. It's actually quite remarkable. Last year we had, a few tens of meters of similar grades in a couple of holes at TV, and here we are now following up on that. We've stepped up the hill, which means we're up higher in the stratigraphy and able to test more or less the entire thickness of this stockwork system. To put it in context, these intervals are from the stockwork feeder to a massive sulfide deposit, and that massive sulfide deposit was found late in the season. We don't have assays from the massive material yet. Everything you see here is from the lower part of this system. It really speaks volumes about the size of this potential discovery. Eskay Creek, the thickness of the VMS system over at Eskay Creek was on the order of about 30 or 40 meters of stockwork, followed by maybe 4 or 5 meters of massive. Here we're seeing considerably thicker than was seen at the Eskay mine, which is, in my view, bodes very well for a significant discovery here. I think we have basically a VMS system that's entirely preserved, and as they've drilled this thing down dip and further to the south even, they're starting to see this thing expand. They've also found the massive material. This is a great start. These intercepts are absolutely incredible. I'd say a lot of the value, if people note, is driven by the silver grades in this system, which is the silver was very high at Eskay, but we're already seeing hundreds of ppm silver in this stockwork. This is an exceptional start.
Mm-hmm. And you said as you're going south, down dip, but I'm looking at the map and the Jeff occurrence that you were looking at, the target. There was some thought, I know last year, that there might be a linkage between the two. How far is the Jeff from the TV?
They're about 2 kilometers apart, and we do see evidence, like geophysical evidence that the two connect. We did have one drill hole between that saw extensive stockwork mineralization, not all that different than what we're reporting here. So we're very hopeful that the two will connect. But it gets better because if you look at the geophysical maps we put out in recent news releases, you can see that there's a lot of additional targets. We'll call them sulfide likely targets to the south and to the north of both TV and Jeff. So it's not just really the 2 kilometers that connect the two. It's really about a 5 or 6 kilometer long corridor that extends right through the TVJF area.
Wow. So how much drilling? I believe these were the first drill results from this summer's drill program. Is that true?
They are, yes. And yes, the assays are kind of coming back in fits and spurts. So these holes were actually drilled kind of in the mid part of the season. We submitted I think 276 batches of samples, and the lab apparently has buried them up in a huge pile. And so they're kind of going through these things backwards or something. So, here we are announcing holes that were drilled in the middle of the season. We don't even have our assays from the first part of the season or the end of the season. But we'll just take what we can get and put out news when we get them. So
it must be a bit frustrating, because I'm sure you'd like to, if you could get information on an ongoing basis, it would help you know where to drill next, and I suppose, in some cases anyway. So there are a lot of drill holes left to be, a lot of assays left that we can be looking forward to, I guess.
Yes, there's 93 drill holes in the lab. We expect to be able to release results. If we start to see the lab kind of crank up these assay returns, we should be able to release a steady stream of results over the next 2 or 3 months, we'll call it.
And I guess you're probably going to be waiting for all that information to come in before you start to engineer your drill program for the next summer?
Yes, we're actually having our meeting to discuss drill plans next week. We have the entire crew from Eskay, and both on the Canadian and American side, meeting here in Colorado, and we're going to start discussing. The beauty of this deposit style is that you can pretty much see where things are headed. We know we have that massive sulfide at the top now. We know we have a huge stockwork to follow up on here at TV, but we also have the results now from the Scarlet Ridge. I mean, when I say results, I mean the field work that was done up there says, yes, there is a huge sulfide system up there. So we can start laying plans for that down at C10 in the new Vermilion area. Start outlining our drill program down there. We are going to be equally as aggressive, if not more so, next year. Now that we're starting to see these numbers come back.
And so you have something like 10 different targets that I look on the map. Are they all considered VMS targets? Or are there any of those that might be a little different?
Everything we've seen so far, I think, is compellingly VMS. It's not to say there couldn't be some other styles of mineralization here. If you look, Pretium, which is now being taken over by Newcrest, is working, has the Brucejack mine, which is, some people call it epithermal, some people call it orogenic. It's a little bit of a head scratch what it is, but there is potential for other style, but we're focused on the VMS, and we think most of what we see on this property is Eskay Creek type.
And do you think the Eskay Creek occurrence is part of this same thing, possibly?
Absolutely. We're in the same stratigraphy. We're in the same, like this mineralization here. If you want to put it in context of what they have at Eskay Creek, this would probably be the lower mudstone horizon that Skeena sees. So we have the very same stratigraphy, very same system. Really, this is an offshoot of the Eskay Creek deposit or district. What's important for people to understand, though, is we have 526 square kilometers of ground through this area. So we have, 90%, I would say, of the prospective ground for the additional Eskay Creek type discoveries up here.
That's incredible. And at Eskay Creek, of course, that is being moved back towards production again. They're having some remarkable, even though it was one of the richest mines in Canadian history, it's still not finished.
That's correct. If you look at the history of it, it was found, I think, in 1989. It was put into production just like 4 or 5 years after that. Homestake won a bidding war, very intense bidding war, and put it into production. Barrick then acquired Homestake. It produced gold up through around 2008. It was the highest grade operating gold mine on planet Earth for many years. But what did they do? They mined the high-grade VMS. They mined the massive sulfide material, but they left a lot of the lower grade. I'm not saying low grade. I'm just saying somewhat lower grade mineralization behind, and that includes the stockwork and stuff. So So we think we have a very similar story here. I think we're on the right path. The grades that we see in these drill holes are actually very, very similar to what Skeena has reported from their drilling.
Right, the Skeena. How well funded is the company?
We actually are pretty well funded, even though we had a robust budget this year. Like we went up there thinking we're going to drill 30,000 meters. We ended up drilling 23,500 meters. So we were, about 80% of the way through the program when the snow hit. So it actually left us with some cash in the bank account after all the bills are paid here. So we're in pretty good shape. We are looking at next year. Obviously, we want to be aggressive. Got a lot of warrants that are in the money now, and we also have some strategic shareholders, of which Crescat, whom I represent, have a very strong interest to make sure the company succeeds.
Well, I'm just looking at a market cap, as I mentioned, 360 million or so in U.S. money. It's not a baby compared to many of the companies that I've learned to know through your excellent work, Quinton. But I guess it's all relative, isn't it? I mean, if you can see world-class potential here, it seems to me it would have that kind of upside.
Well, if you look at the value that was created by the original Eskay Creek discovery, even though this is going way back, 30-odd years, it's just phenomenal. I mean, what these high-grade discoveries can return. I think we'll see some higher grades come out, later this season when we get some of the assays from the massive sulfide. Touch wood. I think we'll see. I don't know if they're going to be Eskay Creek grades or not, but I sure as heck hope so. And I think that a discovery of this ilk is certainly worth a lot in this market.
No. I think when people start realizing, and when people also maybe take their eyes off of some of the more sensational competing vehicles in the markets, they might start paying more attention to gold stocks. Again, as your Crescat Capital folks have reminded us, the one sector in the S&P 500, the one non-financial sector in the S&P 500 is the mining stocks. The big mining companies are making a lot of money these days. The one that's making free cash flow after inflation, the mining sector, the only sector among the Fortune 500 non-financials. So I think we're going to see money going there, Quinton. And today we're seeing a nice move in the gold price. So it's all good. I guess then what we should be watching for then is just we should be watching, those of us that are invested should be watching, keeping our eyes out for more assays. There should be a lot of them coming.
Absolutely.
All righty. Thank you so much, Quinton.
Thank you
for updating us on this story.